Hello and welcome to the Game House College Sports Show. I am Joe. With me is Kyle, as always, here to talk some college football. Last week we recapped Conference Championship Week. We talked about the college football playoff. This week we're going to start picking our bowl games. First of all, Kyle, how you doing?
I'm tired, man. All of these opt outs, transfer portal, all this stuff, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I've started writing some of the bowl previews, and it is not easy. I've had to go back and edit a bunch. I've had to go do research on guys that you can't really find research on some of these smaller school guys, whether they're playing or whether they're opting out or transferring. So, been trying to get whatever tools necessary I can find, but let's just say the transfer portal has made this whole sport and this whole thing like the wild wild west. It's you just don't know, which makes bowls fun anyway. I guess at that rate.
I liked them better before.
I will agree. It'll still be fun for bowl season, but we'll be seeing some guys maybe didn't play this year and just newer faces getting some opportunities. See how they do with them. Kyle, we're going to start our show off talking about Mike Leach. Mike Leach, the head coach of Mississippi State, passed away at age 61. Had some health issues that were rumored at the end of the season. Ended up having an issue this past week, and he passed away earlier this week. Not often we see an active coach die in the middle of the season, or I guess at the end of the season. But his impact on college football is on football in general is being felt everywhere. He helped start the air raid offense at the lower levels of college football, even at high school, and then he worked his way up all the way to University of Kentucky offense coordinator, Oklahoma offense coordinator, then gets the Texas Tech job, then Washington State, and then Mississippi State. He brought a lot of success to schools that did not see a lot of success, and one of the most free thinkers out there, one of the guys who's not afraid to be himself, and he's going to be really, really missed in terms of the college football landscape, and as a guy who had some of the best sound bites you're ever going to hear.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if we mentioned it on the podcast, but I know I'd said it to you, towards the end of the season where I'd heard the rumors about him, this being his last season, and he was going to be retiring because of these health issues. And yeah, it's just a shame that, it's just a little too late that he didn't get out, a little sooner because I'm sure the stress of an SEC job and, even just college football in general. I mean, it's a high stressful job. And so I'm sure that didn't help or anything. And obviously very sad to see it and hear about it. But I thought it was nice seeing all of the, the stories everyone mentioning on Twitter going around and everything and just kind of, reminiscing on him. And, I was a kid and he was part of the reason I loved watching college football growing up when he had Texas Tech and the Michael Crabtree catch and everything. And yeah, it was just so much fun back then watching his offenses. And I didn't get to watch as much at when he was at Washington State, but, we still got to see some. Forget that crazy quarterback he had out there. But, I mean, it's really surreal. We heard about it Sunday night, and I knew some people that, worked down at the hospital he was at, and they basically said it was a done deal on Sunday night when he came in, that, it was just a matter of time. It's really unfortunate. Yeah, really sad. And I hope they do some kind of nice tribute and everything for it and, just kind of keep him in mind or whatever.
Yeah, I've loved seeing those tributes to him, all those old interviews, all that stuff. I will say, College Football Hall of Fame, he should be in it. It's not about necessarily the wins and losses with him. The College Football Hall of Fame has a rule that you have to win 60% of your games, but when you revolutionize the sport and how it's played, I think you deserve a spot. That's how some of the old timers got in too. So when you talk about some of the passing concepts have now gone down a level to high school, gone up a level to the pros. A lot of these pro schemes that are being run are air raids. Offenses, he's got a pretty good coaching tree as well. I wish that's the only thing that would change about this situation because he deserves to be in it just for his impact on the game. And as someone who, Kyle, we cover college football and everything, like it's not going to be as fun without Mike Leach. We're going to get the same. There's only a select few amount of coaches who will say what's on their mind, who will answer questions about anything, who don't really care what people think. And we lost one of them today. It's just tough. It's just tough.
And it's so different too, because there's some that'll say their mind and everything, but they're always so snarky and just rude about it and inconsiderate and disrespectful. And it just felt like Mike Leach he never did that in a way. It didn't feel like he was condescending or being rude or anything. It really just felt like he was being goofy. That's now gone from college football. Nobody else really has that goofiness. It's always with a little dash of condescension or whatever it is. I never felt like we got that from Mike, which was refreshing.
Absolutely. So, thoughts and prayers with him and his family at this time. And Mississippi State has said they're going to play in their bowl game because that's what Mike Leach would have wanted them to do. I mean, they still got a couple weeks before that. I think it's on January 2nd, so we've got some time to prepare, and that's just something they're going to have to figure out because this is not a situation that we see every day. Mississippi State named the defensive coordinator the active head coach after he was the interim coach earlier this week. Probably the best decision given the situation. Just got to keep some sort of stability for the kids in the program right now as they head into this bowl game. Other coaching hires. Stanford was filled by Sacramento State's coach. Purdue was filled by, I think, Illinois' defensive coordinator. There's not many hires are really flashing right now. A lot of these guys being filled are just kind of just guys. As bad as it sounds, they can be very successful, but it's not like Deion going to Colorado or anything like that, Kyle.
Right. Yeah. Not a lot of headlines being made so much. The one with Bobby Petrino being hired on for Barry Odom's staff was more of a headline that I saw today than, filling Stanford or filling Purdue or whoever,
Yeah.
Just not a lot really moving the needle at the moment, but is what it is, I guess.
All right, we'll go into our picks for the bowl season. We're going to do this week by week as there's a lot of bowl games to get through. So we're going to start off and do the ones, and I guess week 1 or week 1.5, if you want to call it that, as we go through. It's going to start us off in the Bahamas Bowl, and this is Miami, Ohio versus UAB. Some quick notes about this game, just because this is going to be how every game is, as we mentioned earlier. Miami quarterback Brett Gabbert was the starter this year, was hurt and was replaced. But he is in the transfer portal. Then he decided to come out of the transfer portal, but he's still injured. He may or may not play. That affects things, obviously. UAB doesn't really have many coaching or many opt-outs or transfer portal guys, so that's really the only thing is maybe Brett Gabbert plays, and he's a much better quarterback than Avion Smith. But UAB is favored by 11 points.
Yeah, and with a lot of these bowl games, especially the teams I'm a little more unfamiliar with, I think I'm going to kind of trust the line a little more. And this one very obviously has UAB, and like you said, a little confusion going on with Miami. You're not too sure who you got. They've got some other guys in the portal and whatnot. And UAB seems pretty fresh. And I thought they had a strong season despite Bill Clark stepping down and everything. I'll take UAB in this one.
I will as well. You're right. The unknown is something I don't want to go for. This is one of the biggest spreads of the college football bowl season so far. We still have plenty of opt-outs and plenty of weeks before this all changes. So if you're doing a bowl pick'em, this is one of the highest confidence I would have because Miami has players in the transfer portal. We don't know if Gabbert's starting. And Avion Smith has had trouble completing more than 50% of his passes, which is not a good recipe for success. Next game up, we have the Cure Bowl. We have UTSA and Troy, two programs who are 11-2 from the Group of 5 conferences who played really, really good football this year. Troy's favored by 1.5 points. There are some opt-outs and transfers for UTSA. Troy does not have as many as they do.
Yeah, and I think even at full strength, I still like Troy in this one. I really like what John Summerall done with that program in year one. And he's got good momentum. I think it's a well-coached team. They were in every game this year, and obviously the crazy loss we mentioned, and then a respectable game against Ole Miss and everything. And they just absolutely took care of business last week, or not last week, but in the prior game and during the championship week. And I thought that was impressive. I think you ride that momentum to a good win against a good UTSA team.
I'm going UTSA. Their quarterback Frank Harris just announced he's coming back for, I believe, his 6th year, and that shows you what NIL money can do. He's been great for them. He's led them in a lot of close wins, a lot of overtime wins in his career. Zachary Franklin at wide receivers back too. Jeff Traylor really has an offense that's unique. So I'm going to go Meep, go with the Roadrunners. Move on to the 17th, which is Saturday, Kyle. We have Cincinnati and Louisville. This has a lot of weird things going on. We have both teams going to be on the same sideline because it's the Fenway Bowl. So they'll be right next to each other. We have Scott Satterfield leaving Louisville for Cincinnati. We have an old rivalry that is played for a keg of nails. We have plenty of opt-outs, including Malik Cunningham for Louisville. And a lot of Cincinnati's receivers and tight ends are out for this game as opt-outs or transfer portal guys. And then Evan Prater, the guy we've talked about all year for Cincinnati, is maybe the guy who should have been starting. He will be starting because Ben Bryant's out with injury at quarterback for Cincinnati. So just a lot to go through there. Yeah,
and after watching him against their last game of the season against Tulane, we talked about it. I mean, I'm not sold at all on that. This is like the WTF Bowl. I mean, what is going on? There's so many players not playing. There's coach swaps. It has a little bit of everything. But I think ultimately I'm going to stay with Louisville. Just like you were saying, there's so many moving parts for Cincinnati right now. And I feel like Luke Fickell was kind of the glue that held all that together. And I think I just see it falling apart. Obviously, it's somewhat of a rivalry game. I mean, I'm not even sure how much of a rivalry game it really is in the minds of the players or anything. It's like they've played for, in their careers. But I think I'd stick with Louisville in this one. I just don't know if Cincinnati's going to have it together for this.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of the ones I would not go to Vegas and start gambling on, not go to your casino. And it's just, you never know what's going to happen in bowl games anyway, but it's a 1-point spread in favor of Louisville. These teams, I think, are similarly talented based on how they played this year. I'm going Cincinnati. I think Malik Cunningham being out for Louisville is really going to cause problems, but also they're down like a lot of their running backs too. They're going to be really thin at running back in this game. The one saving grace is their defense does have a lot of good guys coming back, but I think it's going to be a very, very low-scoring defensive battle, and that pretty much holds true because the over-under on this game is 40 points, which is not something you see in college football all the time. Another weird one, maybe for different reasons, Florida and Oregon State will be the next one we pick. Las Vegas Bowl, Oregon State favored by 10. Oregon State's starting quarterback, Chance Nolan, is in the transfer portal. And then Florida, get a long list out for all the players who are going to miss this game. Gervin Dexter is probably the best player who's going to play for them. He declared for the draft a defensive lineman, but everyone else pretty much you can imagine is out. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is that the starting quarterback for Oregon State?
He was at least to start the year.
Okay, because I don't know if there were injuries or if they did a flip, because the guy I remember watching towards the end of the year was like the long name or whatever. But regardless, the quarterback for Oregon State doesn't really matter. Let's be honest. That's a run-only team, really. And Florida's run defense has been atrocious, and they've got a lot of opt-outs here. They were in the bottom of the SEC against the run, and that's without playing two of the best running offenses in the SEC. So I just see Oregon State running it all over them, and I think the 10-point spread here is pretty accurate. I think Oregon State has this in the bag.
I do too. They have a lot of guys who are coming back to play in this game. They have some opt-outs themselves. Their cornerback and their tight end are both injuries and don't want to risk playing in the game or are out for the game. I think they have enough talent on that team to win, and I think they're more motivated because even the players who are just opting out for the draft will be bad enough for Florida, but they also got the guys in the transfer portal. So you're down to like Anthony Richardson's out this game. I mean, some of your offensive linemen are out. A lot of your defense is out. There's a lot of inexperienced players who are going to be playing in this game, which good for them for the opportunity, but I'm taking Oregon State. Next game up, we have Washington State and Fresno State. There are a couple Washington State receivers who are transferring out, opting out in this game. But otherwise, it's honestly a pretty clean game in terms of opt-outs, so it's pretty fair. Fresno State's favored by 3.5.
Yeah, and I like Fresno State in this one. I'm going to ride the Jake Haener train till the very end. I thought they had it like we were saying, same as last week or the championship weekend. I thought they had a lot of good momentum going into the end of the season. Rough start. They really got their heads back on track. They win the championship game, the conference championship, and they're cruising right on through. And now they get Washington State, and I think this is one they can win as well. So I've got Fresno State.
I'm hopping off the Fresno State bandwagon. Yeah, I am. I bet them. They betrayed me first because I bet over 8 on them and was hyped, and then they lost to UConn. And even if UConn made a bowl, it's still unacceptable. So, but Washington State, I've talked about Cam Ward a lot this year. I think he has progressed as the season went on, moving up from Incarnate Word to Washington State. I think their team is a little bit differently structured than in years past, but we saw Fresno State struggle with those other Pac-12 teams. Those Pac-12 teams maybe a little bit better than Washington State, but I think it's a very close game. Comes down to the wire, and Cam Ward can make a play to help him win the game. Lending Tree Bowl, we have Rice and Southern Miss. Rice makes a bowl game at 5-7 because of their high academic progress rate. Southern Miss is favored by this one by 6 points. There's not too many injuries or opt-outs to be noted in this game.
Yeah, Southern Miss, it looks like going to be 100%, which is crazy. When's the last time that happened? I haven't had a chance to watch too much of either of these teams, but I'm going to trust the line here with Southern Miss. And, of course, I know Frank Gore's son plays for them, and I always love that too. So, yeah, I'll stick with the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, Frank Gore's son, Frank Gore Jr., one of the most fun guys to watch college football because last year they were down to no quarterbacks, and he played quarterback for him, and he was awesome. So I'm going Southern Miss. I'd give Rice not too big of a chance. They have a nice passing attack with guys like Luke McCaffrey, who was a big-time recruit to Nebraska, who just didn't pan out, and he's moved from quarterback to wide receiver. But Southern Miss is just the better team overall. Rice, again, should not probably be in a bowl game, but that's how it works with the APR. This one's a doozy, Kyle. We have SMU and BYU in the New Mexico Bowl. SMU is favored by 3.5. There are so many injuries and so many opt-outs in this game that are for key players, at least for a small school, that we just don't usually see. We have Jaron Hall, the quarterback for BYU, is questionable. That affects things a whole lot. We have SMU's top receiver, Rashee Rice, who's a pretty good draft prospect. He's injured as well. That just really changes the whole complexion of this game. So we're going to try to give a pick here, but we don't even know all the data.
Yeah, and it looks like a lot of defensive injuries or opt-outs from BYU too. And I didn't like how BYU played. I mean, it looks like, of course, they kind of get it together towards the end, but they're beating Stanford, who's not a good team, Utah Tech, who's not a team. And the Boise win was a great win. But ultimately, I was just disappointed with their season. I thought, of course, we talked about it at the time too. When they beat Baylor, they got a real catapult up into the rankings, and obviously that was very misleading, and we saw that panned out and everything. And I just don't think they have what it takes to beat an SMU team that can put up points quickly, especially when you have a lot of your defense missing. And so I think I like SMU in this one, cover and win to win that one.
Yeah, I'm going BYU, but I'm not comfortable with it at all. Jaron Hall, I'm expecting to play. He looks like he may not, but I don't know. If he doesn't play, their backup's also going to be out for this game. He's in the transfer portal. But BYU, what they do have is a good offensive line. I think they can maybe figure some things out. SMU's offense without Rashee Rice, it's a whole lot easier to guard. He's one of the best receivers in college football, 96 receptions for almost 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. I'll take BYU because of the offensive line. That's all I got. I mean, this is one, again, bowl games are not something you should bet on very heavily with how things are going, but that's what I'm going with. We have the Frisco Bowl up next. North Texas at 7-6 against Boise State at 9-4. Boise State is favored by 10.5 points right now. In terms of impact players right now who are going to be out for this game, George Holani may or may not play. He should be good for this one with a shoulder injury, but everyone else who is a key player should be in for Boise State. And then Oscar Attaway, who was the starting running back, hasn't played since, I believe, November.
Yeah, and I think getting Holani back, if that is true, that's huge for them because he's the heart of that rushing offense. And the spread on this one's accurate, too. I don't think North Texas makes it a game. I think Boise takes care of business. North Texas just fired their coach, too, so it's just kind of a weird situation for them. So, yeah, I've got Boise State in this one.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Seth Luttrell getting fired after making a bowl game and a conference championship game. I mean,
that was weird.
I think that.
Who do you think you are, Texas? Like, you're North Texas, not Texas.
I had heard that they were happy to get rid of him and stuff, and just looking for a chance. And after they lost the conference championship, they're like, "Yeah, let's get rid of the. You made it to the conference championship as North Texas." I don't know. But yeah, Boise should win this one pretty easily. I think getting Holani's back is really good, but they really found their way after kind of a rough start to the season. Hank Bachmeier decided to transfer out. They've figured things out offensively, and I think this is one of the games that maybe you should put some high confidence points on for your bowl pick'ems. Moving on to Monday, December 19th, we have Marshall and UConn, the Fighting Jim Moras. Marshall favored by 10 in this game. Kyle, we didn't really think UConn will get to this point, but they have gotten to this point. They have only a couple injuries. Marshall doesn't really have any injuries. This should be a fun matchup, even if Marshall is favored by 10.
Yeah, I like both teams being sort of at full strength here, and I think this game means a hell of a lot to UConn, which makes me think that they're definitely going to cover. I don't think they're going to win necessarily, but I do think it actually would be a better game than this 10-point spread is showing, but I will take Marshall.
Same thing. I'm taking the 10 points with UConn, but I'm taking Marshall again. Taking Marshall straight up. Jim Moore's done a great job. He's actually working the portal pretty well for UConn too, which is not something I thought I'd be saying. But we've seen Marshall play really good against good competition. Obviously, they beat Notre Dame on the road, finished at 8-4 in a Sun Belt that was pretty tough this year. So I'm going to take Marshall. Moving on to Tuesday, December 20th, we have Eastern Michigan and San Jose State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Get ready to watch that blue turf. San Jose State's favored by 3.5 points in this one. And for my money, I mean, I think this is one of the more balanced matchups in college in the bowl system. There's no injuries, no opt-outs that we know of right now. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, and they've got the line on San Jose State. I'm going with the underdog, I guess. I'm going to take Eastern Michigan. I kind of like what they were able to put together at the end of the year, string together 4 out of 5 wins and everything. And I thought they were pretty consistent throughout the year, defensively and offensively. So I'll stick with the Green Eagles, or just the Eagles.
It should be the Emus. Eastern Michigan University Emus would have been. I don't know.
That would have been original.
Yeah. I'm going same pick. I'm going Eastern Michigan. I do like San Jose State's Shaven Cordero, who used to play at Hawaii and was one of those guys who transferred out of everyone else last year. Elijah Cooks for them at wide receiver is really good too. But my buddy Max James coaches for Eastern Michigan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's at Eastern Michigan as I think an assistant running backs coach. I had to look up what his official title. Maybe a grad assistant again because he went from one level to the next. But you're right. They've had a more solid season in my opinion. And if they can limit the passing attack of San Jose State, which I think they probably can, I think they can get the win. The Boca Raton Bowl is up next. We have Liberty and Toledo. Liberty 8-4, Toledo 8-5. Toledo's favored by 5 points. There's not too many guys from this game that are opting out or injured in this one.
Just the head coach.
True.
And that makes me want to take Toledo. I was wrong with them in the MAC championship against Ohio. I thought they played really well. The quarterback, Finn, I guess, that's the one that was injured and then came back for the final championship game, and he played really well too. The backup was fine in replacement of him, but I think him being back and healthy is going to be big. And Liberty you saw the end of the year when all those rumors are flying around, and granted, maybe it's better now that he's gone, but they dropped some games they shouldn't have dropped. Yes, 2 close ones, but the New Mexico State game was abysmal. I mean, that should never have happened. And so I don't know if they're going to be, focused, ready to go. And I think Toledo will be, and they've been here before. They're used to it. I think I like the Rockets in this one.
I do too. I think they're a better team overall. And Liberty, losing the head coach is tough, but they also didn't really have the offense you would expect this year. Makes that Arkansas loss look a little bit worse because this is not the Liberty team from the last couple of years either. They're an okay team, and they're hiring Jamie Chadwell to try to get back to that where they're spending a lot more money than other Group of 5 teams. But Toledo is better right now. As you said, DeQuan Finn is a really good quarterback and one to watch out. I believe he has some eligibility left, so he'll be back next year. All right, the last one we're going to pick this week, the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky and South Alabama. Western Kentucky 8-5, South Alabama 10-2. South Alabama favored by 4.5 points. Kyle, Austin Reed, Western Kentucky's quarterback, flirted with the transfer portal, ended up deciding to stay with Western Kentucky, which is just how the transfer portal era goes.
Just how it goes now. It's where we are in college football. And I'm going to ride that momentum. I'm sticking with the Hilltoppers. Austin Reed coming back gets them gets them the motivation to get a win here. I know they're the underdogs, but I thought he did really well this season. A little rocky there at the end, but that's going to happen. He played Auburn, it is Auburn, but they're a decent team. And outside of that, I thought he had a great season and everything. And I really like the way that offensive moves and everything. And he's the whole reason. So if he wasn't playing, you're going to take South Alabama. But with him in there, I think that's a different offense, and I like their chances to win it.
Well, with South Alabama, their only losses of the year were to Troy in a 10-6 game of all things, and UCLA on the road, which they lost by 1 point. Really like what they've done this year. Also, Carter Bradley's had a good year for them. And Western Kentucky, they get Austin Reed back. He missed practice, then he comes back. That's fine. Things happen. He's probably just trying to make some more money from Western Kentucky if they have NIL money to spend on him. And also, their leading tackler and sacker, Jaquez Evans, just entered the transfer portal, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago, and their bowl game is now in 6 days from now. So good luck figuring that out because he does everything for that defense. But should be a close game. I think USA wins by a field goal. All right, that's the last one we're going to pick because the next game up would be Baylor Air Force. That is more than a week away. We're going to wait and see if there's any more opt-outs or transfer portal news or anything like that. So, Kyle, any final thoughts for the week?
No, not this week. Just waiting on all the rest of the opt-outs for next week. So.
Yeah, we were talking about this. The one thing I want to say is if you're going to opt out or enter the transfer portal to try to make some more money, just do it at the end of the conference championship week, or do it even before that when your team's not in the conference championship, because now we're in a point where, like I said, Evans is there's transfer portal 6-7 days before the game starts. What? you practiced, you risked an injury, you risked that bag, whether it's getting the NFL draft money, whether it's getting the NIL money, you risked that by practicing all this time. Just seems a little bit weird to me that they would not, just use those 2 weeks where after the regular season to make that decision to transfer. But that's just, I don't know, maybe that's just me, Kyle.
No, I agree with you. I echoed the same kind of reaction as you did. Where it's like, what are these kids doing? I mean, that was always confusing me last year too, where it's just like, why are you opting out days before the game? Like you said, you go to all that trouble to practice. I mean, you stay on campus during break. You go to all the practices, and if it makes sense, to opt out beforehand so you can go and do what you want to do. I don't know. Maybe they want a road trip, a little vacation with the team. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I think guys who are going to like the Bahamas or Hawaii, maybe just transfer portal after. Like if you don't have maybe you can always be doing stuff in the back, like talking to some other program while you take the trip. It's all right, but it's definitely, it confused me. And like if in the day and age where yes there are contact injuries, yes we want to limit hits on players, and you're not getting hit in practice as much as usual. You're still practicing in a sport that has, I mean, how many torn ACLs do we see every Saturday and Sunday with football? Just, it still puts you at risk to get something happen. So just, I don't know, make the decision before. Maybe they should have like they're doing with the transfer portal day, where this is when it opens, this is when it closes. Maybe this is the opt-in and opt-out. I know that's never going to happen because it's more subjective, but maybe there should be an opt-in and opt-out day. You have to opt out by December 12th or something like that. I don't know. It just would make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got. I'm going to remind everyone to subscribe to the show on YouTube, to subscribe wherever your podcast's at. We're going to be back next week to pick all the bowl games for the week of, December 22nd through December 27th or 8th or 29th, something like that. Make sure to tune in, let us know how you feel about it. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see everyone next week.